Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Testing Gossips. Today we have our special guest is Mahesh. He is a founder tribal of Test Tribe community and working as a manager with Zycus Infotech. Today we are going to discuss about his journey in IT industry and he is going to share few tips on managerial life. So let's meet Mahesh. Hi Mahesh, pleasure to have you here on this channel. Good morning, how are you?
Hi Nishant, good morning. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing pretty well. Okay. So, can you share your journey, how you have started your career and now you have become a manager and you are leading a testing community as well. So, how you have started? How so far you've been doing?
Okay, so out of the entire journey, you specifically asked about uh, around the managerial journey plus around the community. So I'll start where I thought I'm enjoying leadership. So I I can't really differentiate my journey, between an individual contributor and then I become a manager or something. Because I believe in that concept, right? Like you can always lead without a title.
Yes.
So when I joined Zycus back in 2010, and the product I joined, that was like fortunately just 1 month old, so I could see the entire scratch to live phase there. And there was just one tester who was senior to me, and then he left in a couple of months, I think, for doing his MS. And then I was the only tester, and there were like 16 to 20 developers there.
Okay.
So I saw that kind of phase, and since then, again, I was fortunate enough, or they saw obviously some spark that okay, I can uh, drive the product related activities as well. So I wasn't officially, like in my title there wasn't a lead for like I think around 2 years, because 1.5 years was my bond anyway, the agreement. But unofficially I was leading the product, from like 6 8 month experience only on the testing front, obviously. And I could grew that team, from like the single person, and then from there I could grow it to like 30 40 50 people across the locations as well. And then obviously over the years I went on taking more products responsibility, on the testing front. uh, but I don't really see any difference that okay, there was a particular day and I notice, oh, I am a manager now. So I more of see managerial positions as leadership. I don't really differentiate that. So as a manager you are more like, okay, like in corporate terms you are managing people and all that, but eventually you are leading a group, right, to make sure that they succeed as a group, and at the same time you achieve the organizational goals as well. So that's how I saw it. So I never had that like sudden realization. I was leading without title and I was enjoying that. So uh, all the promotions and title change, that those never really made any difference to me. Basically it was just a change, but I was already doing that work, and it was kind of a reactive that the designation is getting changed. So that's how I would summarize that.
Okay, so initially, whenever you have started, you are going for further to management role from tester to a manager. By that time, what is your motivation or how you are feeling? The thing is, whenever you are becoming manager from tester, it's a middle. There is one small layer. So earlier you are getting work from some others, and you are reporting whatever you are
Yeah.
getting. You are delivering this straightforward thing.
Hmm.
Now, what you are doing? uh, you are getting from the manager and you are getting work from other testers. So now you have to make a chain between the management and a tester.
Hmm.
So are you, yeah, can you differentiate or how you handle this situation initially?
Uh, so in my case, again, that wasn't there. So I was very fortunate to get the culture I like as a person, right? So freedom is something which is very important to me, like allowing me to uh, execute certain things in my way, experiment with that, and that all was allowed. So I was reporting, to my manager called, her name was Priya Shenoy, and she always gave me that freedom that even when she's around, she would never really try to change the way of my working if I'm doing a particular task. And only when I do a mistake which is significant enough, then she'll, like, very kindly tell me, okay, why this could have been corrected, and what is the better way of doing it. And that's how the relation was. So as I said, like from 6 month 8 month experience, I was in a way taking certain decisions, like how to test. And uh, the only placeholders which were there were like the templates, like in which tool you should be logging a defect, in what format you should be logging those, in what format you should be writing the test cases. But it wasn't like, that even within test cases you cannot improvise, or you have to only follow a particular structure and all that. So that experimentation was always there. So for me it was, I never felt like, okay, I'm like taking daily updates or daily work updates from someone and then doing that work. It was more like, yeah, I know what I need to do, how many people are there, how many user stories are going on, what is the backlog, right? So I wasn't really tracking it the way I am tracking now with respect to work hours and all. But I was knowing ki, okay, this is the backlog, and I was having my own unorthodox ways, to deal with those. And that's how I was completing the work. So I never felt like, okay, someone is really giving me the work in a very structured manner. It was more like, okay, we know as a team what we need to do. Yeah, but over the years, right, when the responsibility increased and this product as well went live, obviously the pressure when the product is live versus the pressure when the product is being built is different. In live phase, obviously there are so many things, and over years I went on taking more products responsibility. The title increased, and obviously with that you have to be more responsible to various number of things. With that, then obviously I started tracking. Even then it wasn't like, someone is weekly telling, okay, something needs to be done. More of, we already know what needs to be done in a particular sprint or particular quarterly release or monthly release. And then there can be changed priorities which can come as an update from our managers and directors and VPs, like, okay, these are the things which you need to do. So in that way, one thing which I understood, if you have to be content or peaceful in software world, you have to be okay with the changes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you try to try to avoid those, or you become very rebelliant seeing the change, then it can become a problematic for you plus the team as well. Because we have to understand why the change is coming, right? Okay, some team made a mistake, some team didn't communicate that, some team didn't ask the right question to customer, and customer didn't answer it well, or someone missed a document. That is fine. But eventually now why that change is coming? Because business demands that, right? And we as testers, I think Pradeep talks this about this subject a lot and very well, that we as testers need to understand from where the business is coming, what is my value in getting that business, right? Because eventually if the company keeps on functioning, right, if the business keeps on coming, then we all belong there, right? If the company doesn't make business, then
Yeah.
there is no place for any of us.
Yes.
And that is why we need to understand, once we become okay with this thing or this fact, things become very easy, right? You are already mentally prepared that changes can come. So even if a change come, then the only thing you have to think about is, okay, now how do I deal with this? How much I can cover up this? At what cost I can take this change,
Okay.
right? So that is about changes. Then about, there can be very aggressive timelines which we have gone through time to time being a product based company. Even within that, eventually it is very very simple in my view. If you are good enough in putting down your work estimate on paper, not in a particular format, like I don't really use a lot of industry methods, but even in bullet point format, like what would be your flow of work, what all items you need to cover, how many people you have, and with respect to that, let's say you have 2 weeks time to deliver this very aggressive thing, uh, with respect to timeline, with respect to complexity and all. Once you put down all the data, and if you present it to stakeholders well, it is very clear. No one will tell you, no, 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 you have to do 5 weeks work in 2 weeks, and that too well. It boils down to two simple things. You present, okay, this is the way I think I will do it, and I think in 2 weeks I can do this much. If you feel there is a better way of doing this particular thing, through which I can cover more, please tell me. It's very straight and simple. If the person is telling you the better way, you have to accept that. Oh, I didn't think of that. Let me try that as well. So out of two people, there is a negotiation going on, right? Out of two people, whichever is the better way of doing things and whatever covers, maximum things with the needed quality, that wins. The approach is winning. The person is not winning or losing. The approach is winning, and that's how you roll ahead. So that keeps on happening, like almost every week, I would say, at times every day, like how you can do particular thing. Every day is more about the production issues, like how we approach that issue and still solve within the SLA. And then sprint wise things are obviously there, release wise things are obviously there. Certain some big customer will come, like suddenly, and then demand will be very high with respect to the feature delivery, and you have to cope up with that. So I see it that way, like how we approach the work. And then the key becomes, if you have grew your team in the same way, in the same culture and same mindset, if not all, at least few change makers are there in the team who believe why you think in a particular way, then the communication becomes very easy. So talking about your chaining part, because these people will understand what you are talking, so then it becomes very easy, and you need natural leaders in your team. It shouldn't be that uh, you are thinking in a particular way and there are 10 people in your team who are all thinking in a different way. So there can be situation that three people just joined, so they cannot be they cannot be in your they cannot be thinking your style of working, or your own work philosophy or something like that.
Yeah.
So it'll be more like, you have certain people who you have worked with for considerable time, and they understand what you are talking, or what you believe in, or what you think this should be done, or why you think we should be very okay towards a change, why it demands a particular business decision and all. Then you communicate with these people and they make the work easy, or you communicate with the entire group, and because these people are understanding it, the energy, right, the positive energy towards that change only will create that ripple effect across the team. So that's how I saw it being managed. I don't know, if I suddenly join a new team, then obviously there have been situations like that. Then I'll have to convince them a lot more. I'll have to present a lot, a lot of data. I have to give example. I have to listen to them first, right? You should allow them to vent out their frustration as well.
Okay. So you talked about the changes. So sometimes what happen? People are or higher management or from your team member, you are yeah getting some inputs and they wants to make some changes. And certain way, they are right in some ways. But what you feel, ki if we go with that flow, will mess up something or it went wrong. Sometimes you feel like this. So in this
Mhm.
case, how you will tackle? Because every time changes, it doesn't. Yeah, it is right, it may be wrong, it went well.
Okay, so if I understood it right, you are saying there is a particular task, and then a team member of mine, they want to, he or she want to do that task in a particular way,
In particular way, they wants to approach, they want to change the testing approach or
right?
methodology.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, something they wants to change.
Okay,
Somehow
so
you feel it is not correct. It may went wrong.
huh. So then it goes about, right, the cost of change. Like, what is the cost of that change? If we are talking about, we are at a situation that this is very first sprint of an entire release, and the release is quarterly, and the feature that person is talking about has few more weeks or sprint to take care of, and that person is not changing the core processes which are working in that organization. Like, when I say changing the core processes, as in uh, something which is working very well, okay,
Yeah.
and that person is removing all those things and then promising something which the person is not able to present in a way that at least it can match up.
Yes.
Okay, so if the person is able to say that, okay, it will match up, then very well, right, we can go ahead with that. That, like, similar things can be with respect to whether to write test cases in a text format or use mind maps. So
Yeah.
there can be debate and there can be questions with respect to okay, let's see if it will suit in our context, right? and then based on that you can take that decision. And if a situation allows, if the cost of that change is comparatively low, then obviously I usually allow, let them experience uh, like how they will drive that change, because not many people have taken a new decision or hold of a new idea and then they have executed that. So that is fine. If it is a last sprint of a release or a very crucial phase of a release, and then someone want to experiment, then obviously you have to pause it for the right time.
Okay.
uh,
So it is,
because if it is a small enough, then you allow it. But if the cost of that change can be very huge, then obviously you have to pause it for the larger good.
so here what I understood is we need to go with this cost, confidence, and timeline, right?
Yeah, so how the person is presenting, whether the person is open to a debate, right, or discussion around that thing. it,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that, no, I have read this somewhere, or I have seen this in my previous company and I just want to do it, and the person is not open to conversation. So that's something doesn't work. If a healthy conversation happens, a debate happens, and then the approach wins. A person never wins, right? The approach wins or approach loses in that particular context. So that is one. Obviously the confidence of that person and on that person. You also should be trusting that person, right? That okay, the person won't certainly mess up everything.
It should.
And then the third thing is obviously the cost.
Yeah. Okay. So now I have another question. So you are saying we should open for the changes or anything. So for example, few person join in your team, and how do you train? So the what I feel is they can understand if they are good, very good in testing or programming concept. They can easily adapt the your framework and testing
Yeah.
approach and
Hmm.
everything. But the thing is, they need to learn the product because every product will change. So whenever we
Hmm.
are going from one product to another product, so something will change, fundamentals or understanding the product.
Hmm.
Yeah, and without product knowledge it is difficult to move forward. So how you will train? And one more thing happens here. So for example, they are coming with experienced person, 5 or 6 years experience, so they are following some terminology, so testing
Yeah.
approach with their previous company, and now you are following some different approach, so we have to manage somehow. So how to tackle
Yeah.
this situation?
Yeah. So there are two questions you asked. So talking about the first question, right? So product knowledge is definitely very crucial. A lot of times it happens that a new person joins, and very rightly the person is not able to understand the complexity of your application, right?
Yeah.
And then like he or she may try to apply whatever are the previously done exercises or previously followed processes or previously used tools pretty blindly, and then that doesn't work. That it won't work in this particular context. So before that, like obviously the world changed very fast and it has become very fast now. But like if I go back like few years back, what we used to do is when a new person joins, uh, there is an induction process which is still there, right, which is multi-week process. And there are several things which are taught there, that can be around the types of testing we do here, or the way we write test cases and why we think that suits this context best. Then the tools we are using, the teams they need to collaborate with, uh, what is the responsibility of each of these two teams, what is the release process, what is the automation process, uh, what do incidents and problem mean, what is the SLA, and more things like that. So we cover this entire thing end to end. But more than that, what we used to have is, we used to have a target for a person before that person can have a product allocated, or product is allocated, but before that person can take up actual work, that person need to complete one target. And that target used to be number of bugs, number of valid bugs in a particular product.
Yes.
Okay. Now it can get debatable that, oh, number of bugs shouldn't be a criteria for quality. So we are not judging the quality here. What we're trying to do is, when you give a target like you have 2 weeks and you need to find, let's say, 50 bugs. If you have, let's say, you have 3-4 weeks and you need to find 100 bugs, so 4 weeks no more works in current situation. It used to work years back. But you can always give 1 week or 2 week for them to get comfortable if there are like big products, enterprise level applications, and you give them this target. So what happened, because there is such aggressive target, they explore application very aggressively,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not finding anything on easy screens, so they'll go to different screens. They'll try to change many configurations. They'll, in the same screen, they'll try to perform various other scenarios. They'll try to change the browser, they'll try to change the resolution. A lot of things can happen. They'll try with different test data. So in all this, what happens, they end up exploring application very well. Something which without a target they'll take 2 days to do, they can now do that probably in half day or 1 day. And we have seen that. And we have seen people like completing 100 works target as well in 3 weeks and all. So again, that depends on the application they are testing, the quality of that application at that stage. So all that decides how soon they can find those many bugs. But these targets have helped very well in my case at least. And again, these are all things which we came up with. Okay, we want to do this is something which looks like a good way to push person to learn a lot of things, and that works very well. So that's how we make sure that the product knowledge is up to date. When the person is starting, obviously you want them to start with a story which is simple enough to understand.
Yes.
And let them come to the main flow, let them come to the requirement gathering session, let them experience what is how does brainstorming session works. And once they understand, oh, even in small story there are so many complexities, they'll talk to other people, and then slowly the complexity can go on increasing. So I think it takes like 2 to 3 months at as well for a person to really get used to the culture of a new company, the complexity of the applications they are going to test, plus the entire team dynamics, like how the entire team works, who is who is someone they can learn from, who is someone they can train, and a lot of these things. uh, so this was about first. And second, as I said, like my approach is pretty simple. If someone wants to apply a particular terminology or a particular process which they have previously used, uh, it all goes to discussion. Like, okay, tell me how it will help in our context, and I'll ask question. At times I'll ask hard questions. And if the answer to all the questions by me and by other members are satisfactory enough, we can very well experiment with that. Nothing like that. Like you can always give it a try and see how it goes. And at times we have done that. Like there are things which were not there before, and someone came with that relevant experience. We found it promising, and we tried that, and we are like successfully using that as well. So it all boils down to discussion, a healthy debate, and then which approach wins.
Now the thing is, have you ever feel like a team member is having a more knowledge as compared to the manager? They are good at scripting part or automation part. Somehow, in particular area, they are very good as compared to the manager. So in that case, how manager can deal with the team member? For example, in the in estimation part. So for example, I am a manager and I'm not that much good at the scripting as per my team member.
Right.
So whatever estimation I have done, he can do better as compared to
Huh.
the. Yeah. So how you can tackle this situation? It happens sometimes.
No, it's not sometimes. I think it should be a very common scenario. It
Yeah.
should be very common scenario, because what happens is, when you transition from a fresher then to leadership position, and then eventually the title changes. I don't really see it manager and all. The title eventually changes, and then you have people reporting to you and all. So that happens. With that, you, in a given time, even if you consider like slogging and all, you have like 10 hours or something per day, right, in office, and that multiplied by a few years.
Yeah.
So you cannot be pro at everything. Okay. The situation you are talking about, that okay, the person in the team or the IC, you're like he or she has a solid grip on a particular thing compared to manager. Same thing, like over the years, if we take this person up, right, on the transition graph, same thing will happen, that the people who are reporting to this person now, they'll be good in something else. So it all depends on, you're going so let's see it in the analogy of, like, there is a huge field, and there is a grass covered all over, and you are, going straight through that. And then the situation is, the task is like, you have to cut the grass, right? And you have to still, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So how much area you can cover? If you
Okay.
are very aggressive, you will still do things, and you'll try to cover more,
Yeah.
but there is a limit, right?
Yes.
So this is a very common scenario. I can, like, very openly say that on many things I have seen people who are better than me in a particular area. For that matter, automation scripting is something which I have seen over years. Like, I have worked with people like Amar, we have people like Kunal, and their still team. So they are pretty much, they're obviously more hands-on. They can remember the syntax and everything. And due to my roles and responsibilities, I may not be remembering those things, or I may not write that fast. That's very, very much is the case, and it is perfectly fine, because you should be complementing each other. You shouldn't be, uh, competing or comparing with each other.
Yes.
So for that matter, what I knew over the years is, I can ask good questions. I can ask good questions which will help, take good decisions and all. So I, even if I, cannot write code as fast as someone else, I can read the code, I can ask the right questions. If there is a problem, I can suggest a solution, and then the people will agree, oh, this makes sense, right? Because then you have to think 360-degree, and someone who is coding may not have that openness, or probably that there is a mental block because they have to complete the coding task. So this very well happens. So you have to complement each other, and you at times, have to openly accept that. And at times I say things like, I don't know how this will happen, but this is the idea, and do you think there is a way? If person says there is a way, we have cracked the problem. If person says no, there, I don't think this can happen, okay, let's move on to separate solution. And that's how we keep on rolling. And we have done crazy things like that, just by complementing. Like, I can give a solution, and I can probably give choices. Okay, these are three choices in which we can solve the problem, and then they'll pick, okay, what suits the best, and then we'll debate, and then we'll get it done.
Okay, fair enough. So I have one more. So it's you feel it's funny, but sometimes what happen? People are cracking jokes on manager and tester relations, or team member or manager
Yeah,
relations. So what do you feel?
I feel that that's fine. Like, that happens, right? Like, that's everywhere. That's not in IT alone. You talk about cricket, the kind of jokes which gets cracked on a coach, right?
Yeah.
uh, like, that can be Indian team coach, or that can be any IPL team coach, or like football team coach. These things happen. Like, people, there is a freedom to express, and people can feel that, okay, the particular person is doing something, the coach is doing nothing, and the players are doing everything. The coach is doing so much, but the players are not responding. A
Yeah.
lot of things can happen, right? So like, if you are following IPL, you would have noticed the seriousness on Stephen Fleming's face this year, because he's coaching Chennai Super Kings, right? So that happens, and that is fine. The jokes will keep on coming, and we have to understand that the jokes are, on the generalized factors.
Yes.
Sometimes these are very specific, targeting one manager or targeting one coach and all. But at times it is generalized factor that, okay, managers are usually laid back, they don't do work, they will just assign the work and they'll chill, right? Things like that. So it is on a generalized factor, and we have to accept that there are such managers as well. uh, that's fine. Jokes are fine, like, unless you are not targeting anyone personally and making that person feel very bad, it should be fine.
Yes. So now we'll move to testing or interview part. So whenever you take the interview, person is not matching your requirement, your team requirement or company requirement. So how can you give them feedback?
I never give the feedback uh, until they ask. Okay, and there are very few people. I would say just like 3 to 4% people who will at the end of interview will ask feedback very openly. At times you feel the energy. Someone really wants to know how they did, right? And sometimes that because at the end you ask, right, okay, I'm pretty much done from my side, and you have any question, and because it's a formal thing and we read on internet, someone will just say, give me a feedback. So I tend to sense that energy as well, that okay, person have just asked something, but probably there is no enough, I would say, eagerness behind that thing. So I then try to decide, that how much I want to sugarcoat that thing, right? Why I'm saying sugarcoat is because if I feel that someone, the interview has gone at a very different frankness level, and that happens with me a lot of times, that over that 45 minutes or 1 hour, or more than 1 hour, uh, we get so comfortable that I can feel the energy from where this person is coming, what kind of journey this person have had, and then I will openly ask, okay, you need feedback, that's fine. Do you want it raw or you want me to sugarcoat that, right? And then I give a disclaimer that this is not a feedback about what you are, what you have done. This is a feedback about how you answered for these 45 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes or 1 hour is too less to, like, you shouldn't be judging people in this less time. And I openly tell them, like, I'm not judging you, but from what I have heard and what I can make out of that, this is where I think you have done very well, and these are the areas probably you can improve, right? Then people ask, whether I'll be like accepted, rejected, and all those things. So I don't see rejection in these things really, right? I know that it can hurt, and it, like, for a candidate it can come like a rejection, I'm no good and all that. But we have to understand, it is not rejections as such that you are not good. It is more about the expectations which a company had, and a skill set you possess, or the skill set you could represent at that particular time, in a given time. Let's say you know everything but you went blank,
Yeah.
you couldn't present it. So it's a mismatch. Like, expectation and reality, it's a mismatch. It's not that you are completely bad, or the company is completely bad, or anything of that sort. So I try to tell this to people. I know still, anyone who gets a no in an interview would feel bad. But yeah, that's how I approach. Basically, I go with certain disclaimers, and if I feel that the conversation has been very open, at times I give very raw feedback as well, that okay, at this number of years of experience, and based on the conversation, what are the things you should be improving, and all that. But it has to go that you shouldn't be sounding like a king, or someone who can decide the things. Even if you are taking an interview, you have to tell people that okay, this is only based on 45 minutes, so don't take it as a final judgment.
Yes, right. So in sometimes requirement is keep changing. The thing is, what happens is a tester. If I'm working on one task, I today is 31st and I got one task. So I started working. Initially, I have to understand
Yeah.
the task, product, or new. If it is a new sprint, new feature, then I have to understand everything and I start working on it. But what happens by after 10 days or 15 days, I have completed 70% or 80% task and it got changed.
Hmm.
So sometimes I feel what is going on. I am not able to complete any work and I have to understand new and new stuff. And I am going here and there, here and there. So it's difficult to manage as a tester or as a manager. So how you deal with it?
uh, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to, like, generically answer that, because company to company, and based on the culture they have, based on the processes they have, uh, the kind of communication channel they have from the engineering team till the client,
Yeah.
right? It basis that, based on that, the percentage of changes may vary. So we also see that, but comparatively it's not to the level that okay, if there are 10 stories, 8 will get changed. It doesn't happen like that. Probably if there are 10 or 20, you may experience that for 1 or 2 stories.
Yeah, one or two. Yeah.
So that way it is pretty much manageable. Like, as I said, if you are already ready that changes may come, then what is the problem? You can now. And then it is very straightforward. If the change is coming on Thursday and my sprint is ending on Friday, then everyone knows this cannot go in that sprint. It will be a spillover,
Yes.
right? Very rarely it will be no, it is like topmost priority and we need to do something. But even within that, then you have to just cut the scope, take the most important one, and then you try to ship it in like next few days to make the business happen as well. Plus make sure that you are not sending something which is completely untested or poorly developed.
Okay.
But yeah, in other companies there might be situation where if like out of 10 if 7 are getting changed, I don't know how they feel.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, then someone need to step up and try to fix the channel itself. Like from there are, in that particular channel, from dev team or engineering team till client, there are several teams involved.
Yes.
So then someone need to step up and see which particular layer of this entire channel is creating this mess and then try to solve it.
Yes. Yes. You are right. So you are leading a team, and there are different people who are good at communication, who are good at particular testing. Uh, Someone is good at security part, performance part, or automation part. So how you will manage the work? You are you believe there should be 360-degree approach. One person should know automation, performance, everything, or there should be different person or different tester for different tasks.
One person should know everything, yes, but depth, again, yes, is subjective. Like it's not that okay, there is a,
No,
yeah.
what I mean is, they could do workaround. So one person automation guy is not available for 1 week. They went for a week leave. Then someone
Yeah,
could be able to manage.
yeah, that should be there. And that's what we have. We don't have separate teams for separate types of testing. So the same team will do like your functional performance. They'll know the tool. Most of them will know how to use the tool. And obviously if you said they have taken the training and they know the basic know-hows. But obviously if you tell suddenly, okay, now you take care and take over and uh, build a new script, they'll take time, but they should be able to do. The same team will do basic type of security testing, the most basic one like XSS, URL tampering, SQL injection. These basic things obviously they can check. Then if the basic observations, the page is slow or not, whether it is falling into our performance criteria or not, doing multilingual testing, doing multi-tenancy testing, right? Then if there are APIs involved, then ability to test the APIs, ability to deploy the builds, ability to troubleshoot the issues on local or on production, ability to look into a production issue and update a ticket. All these things more or less are there. If a new person joins, you cannot expect that okay, in 2 months you know everything. So we tend to keep, if someone is doing let's say performance testing for some time, after a few months we'll try to have that rotation, and if situation allows, someone else may do that.
Yeah.
If situation doesn't allow, let's say for 6 months, that always the performance related tasks are on priority, then the same person will keep on doing that. But the others have had the opportunity to see the demo and see how the tool is being used.
Okay.
Or if they are ready to invest extra time, they can always practice that and ask the questions to a particular person.
Okay.
So I believe in each person should know everything at same depth. Probably not, they'll have their own expertise area, but other areas they'll know at decent depth at least.
Okay. So I think we have pretty discussed on the managerial role and testing part. We should move to test type community part.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the aim behind the test type community? How you have started? Whenever you have started, by that time, what's thought were running in your mind?
Yeah, so the part which I probably touched, right, like in the other discussions, or we have had discussed it personally. So I was building this micro community called Zycol Squad within Zycus anyway. I just wasn't knowing it is a community. For that matter, we are having a Facebook page as well. We created it long back
Okay.
to create some inspiration for the world to see how a team can operate. And that this is not a team which belongs to same product, by the way. These are people from 4 to 5 different products, and the
Okay.
only common key is that okay, the testing functions of these products are reporting to me. That's it, and they're part of same company. Now within that, like we used to meet every Wednesday. If you go to my blog maheshchikne.com, you can find articles about how we did things within Cycle Squad, did interesting things. Each of us was having a separate title, right? As you said, right, someone is good into tracking the latest trends, so we used to call that person trend tracker. So there was a title to that person, right? It's someone who is a tea lover, so we used to call him TO rather than CEO. It's like TO. So that person's responsibility is to make sure that every now and then a team goes on a tea together.
Okay.
Someone is a foodie, so that person will have a title around that, right? So I am good at motivating people to get do things and set benchmarks and get things done. So I was like chief catalyst.
Okay.
Okay. So my role was to play a catalyst in everywhere the possible. Then someone who would be who enjoys leadership or team building related thing, so they will have a separate role. Someone who loves reading will have a separate role. So these things we used to have a Slack to communicate. We still have, by the way, even though the products are changed. And every Wednesday we used to meet for 2.5 hours, and we used to discuss all these things. We used to play Mafia. We used to go out on tea, snacks. We used to share things. We used to debate. Right, if someone is learning something, the person will share. There is an area within Zycus which someone knows, but the other people are not knowing. Then that person will give a session on that, right? So a lot of these things talks about life, talks about how we should be utilized time, a book summary. So a lot of these things used to happen, and people used to look forward to Wednesday. When they come join the week, they will look forward to the Wednesday.
Okay.
Then we experimented with things like donut mates. So donut, you must be knowing, there is a bot on app on Slack. It will randomly pair two people out of the entire group, and then they'll have to make time, and they have to go out on a tea or coffee or snacks together. And we made a lot of such meetings happen in last year.
True.
So these are small things we keep on experimenting, and which keeps the entire team together. You get to know new people. So I was doing all this for years, and so there will come a bit of an unknown story now, that I along with few more people who were like very, so other people were also linked. But then there is obviously a set of people you relate very well, and these people were able to relate to what I think about team building and growing team and doing most of your time. They related the most. And then we thought, okay, do we want to uh, restrict whatever we are doing to only Zycus, or we want to experiment outside? The unknown part is, it was also out of frustration. Why? You and I understand now that it was wrong. uh, See, the key cannot be only that you are being successful, right? Or you are nailing it on every front. The key cannot be just that. I think the bigger factor is whether you are happy.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
understood it over years. The bigger factor is if you are happy, and if someone is, happy and peaceful, uh, doing decent job at work, making their livelihood, and they're enjoying their time the way they want, whatever they want to do outside their work, then it is absolutely fine, right?
Yes.
Just because it doesn't match with my thinking, that cannot be wrong. So even then I wasn't thinking like, okay, it's wrong. But yeah, at times the people who are like highly motivated may get a bit frustrated, right? Looking at people who would who'd want to settle in their comfort zone. And then there was also a bit of frustration, and then we thought, okay, why to limit ourselves to uh, just a set of people. Let's see how things happen outside. So that was that. The second frustration was, I was waiting for years, that okay, something will happen in Mumbai. And then it's very easy. I had subscribed to quite a few meetup groups, and then they'll host a event, and then I'll go, and then I'll get to experience these things. It's easy for me. That never happened, so we thought, okay, now let's try experimenting along that factor. And that's where, like, even before we did the first Mumbai meetup, we wanted to do a meetup internally, but we couldn't quickly facilitate that. And before that, we said, okay, let's do a social meetup. Social meetup is easy, like let people come, We'll discuss some things, we'll have quick bites, we'll have tea, coffee, then we'll leave. And that's how the first meetup happened. And I might have covered this before, but we knew nothing about, like, event management or the drop rates and all. So we made it live, and 44 registrations. I'm very happy without doing anything, 44 registrations. And then on event day, which was pretty long, only 2 people out of those 44 turned up. And most of my team, like, they we all are busy calling up people, oh, you're coming or not. And a lot of them had forgotten, someone got work on a Saturday, a lot of things, right? And then after some time, we thought, okay, let's settle in. We are like 9 people in all, and we can have a great time together. And that's what we did. We discussed on I think first meetup was around JMeter, if I'm not wrong. And then we discussed a lot of technical things, how the calls to, like, how a web application works, and all those casual discussions. Then we had a discussion around test PR cards as well, I think. And it was like very candid discussion. Now 8 to 9 people are sitting, and we are discussing a lot of things on jobs and all. And we enjoyed that, and I think that was the starting factor, that the joy it gave. I thought, okay, if 9 people can enjoy, obviously there will be more who will do that. And then the hackathon happened. That was almost like, that I had met Paras before during one of testing hackathon which happened in Mumbai when he was part of Venture City. And like, there are 4 prizes which were won by Zycus teams, like people in my team. So I was also participating. And so then Paras knew that, okay, this is the winning team. So we were in touch. And then I asked, okay, whether he would be interested to help in doing a testing hackathon. And that's where the first hackathon happened. It went great. And that was a turning point. Then the people started noticing and approaching that we also want to do this in our city, and then we'll be driving this initiative and all that. And few months down the line, once these things kept on getting pace, and I kept on getting these random messages, kept on having the conversation with people. And then I noticed, okay, we are up to something big, and people now have a lot of expectation. They're looking with expectations, and we'll have to fulfill that. So obviously that factor of joy that kept on growing. And that's how we started. uh, Obviously once you realize, then only you think about what are your larger goals and all. I won't say that I was having that from the first day. So when I kept on thinking, then I knew, okay, what is the problem? There are quite a few cities where nothing is happening, so that is first goal. Then covering the metro cities is the first goal. Then tier 2, they are like very disconnected from the mainstream, right? They don't know what things are happening, what kind of changes are coming. Those changes usually come to, like, first to the advanced market, like probably US and all, and then slowly it will come to other countries, it will come to India, then it will come to metro cities. Then eventually over the years, probably in 1-2 years, it will go to tier 2 cities as well. So then we thought, okay, we want to cover that as well. So if you talk about now, we obviously want to reach as many testers as possible across the globe, get them under a community roof where they can obviously collaborate, learn, and grow together. And eventually the idea is to spread the awareness, spread it enough. We all should be knowing our craft pretty well. And once we once we work on ourselves together and at personal level, eventually we'll end up creating smarter, confident, and prouder tester. Smarter is obviously necessary. Smartness is very, I think, even more than the skills, individual skills, or learning a particular technology or learning a particular tool. Smartness is above that, in my opinion. If you're smart enough, like the way you call that, street smart, you can crack a lot of things on your own, right? So smartness is obviously important in everything. Confident, because once you are confident, then we can convey our things very well to others. uh, our job is to highlight risk, to talk with stakeholders, to connect with people, and a lot of things. So if you are not confident in that, I don't think we can do well enough. And then the prouder part, which is very important. A lot of us have got into testing by accident, right? A lot of us after that are happy that, okay, we got into it and we're enjoying. A lot of us are still not happy. We have that victim uh, mindset still with us that we somehow couldn't crack something else, and that's why we are here.
Yeah.
And because these things are there, pride is missing,
Yes.
right? To be proud that okay, we are testers, वो missing है. So once we have that, जब हम इज्जत करेंगे तभी बाकी लोग करेंगे ना. Like it's very simple. We should be proud about ourselves, right? अभी like let's say, अभी अगर हम लोग बोले कि okay, if you are proud about yourself that you are tester, please tweet it.
Yeah.
How many will do? So it boils down to these things. And जब ये तीन चीजें होगी, then I'm hopeful, slowly bigger changes will happen. Once we start looking at ourselves with lot more clarity and lot more pride, then the other functions and the industry and more and more things, more and more people will start looking it that way. So that is the bigger idea.
Okay. So you're spreading love across the testing community and people are getting benefited from it. So what do you feel?
No, the feeling is obviously good, and as I said, like that feeling of joy, like rather than uh, I won't say it gives me like high or something, but I feel good when I see that okay, things are helping people in certain way. At times rather it uh, I feel that probably the impact can be much bigger, right? If I do things in certain way, or अगर ये किया होता तो और बड़ा होता चीजें, and so on. So I end up probably beating myself too much, which I need to control. It doesn't, you can't keep on slogging and then making things happen. So obviously we need more and more change makers which will make these things happen. There should be more and more testers who should join, and I always give those calls every now and then, that people should join and people should help in what we are trying to do, right, in their own small ways and big ways. And that's when we can make the change happen. Like it's not a task of 2 or 4 or 5 or 10 people or 20 people, 30 people, right? It has to be much larger movement. That's when it will succeed. So it gives me joy, and that's what keeps me going.
Okay. So whenever I discuss with the people about learning new stuff or doing new things, they are saying, "Yeah, time नहीं मिलता है." But you are managing community pretty well. You are doing your work and you are managing the family. So how can you do that together?
टाइम तो मतलब इट्स लाइक टाइम तो होता है. ओके, टाइम तो होता है. इट्स मोर अबाउट see why you do something. One is there is a very strong need. Second is very strong motivation. You are self motivated or highly motivated, or there is very high influence,
Okay.
right? अब and influence के साथ like need and motivation के साथ you can keep hunger as well somewhere in between, उसी में जाएगा. But if these three things are not there, then कोई task होना थोड़ा सा tough हो सकता है, because you are not self motivated to learn something new. There is no need, as in you are not losing your job,
Yes.
okay, or you are not losing your increment.
Teaching on comfortable.
हाँ. Third, there is no enough influence around you. Like there are no change agents. Change agent का होना काफी जरूरी है, because these people set the higher benchmarks within teams. There is someone who is doing pretty well, and not out, if you are doing that out of competition, then there is a problem. But if you see that out of respect, oh, this person is doing like this, and I also want to do. Now I am influenced, right? And influenced, and then self motivation becomes connected for us for a certain time. But self motivation can go long way, right? Influence can be like short term. तो ये तीन चीजों में से कुछ तो होना चाहिए. That's when things can happen.
Okay.
And I hope testers pick the self motivation or influence way. Need is very tough thing. If it comes on your job or your sustainability, it is not very easy thing to go with for everyone. So I hope कि दूसरे दो options के लिए people wake up.
Okay, great. So I saw a recent upcoming big event is a Testflix. So would you like to share a few things about Testflix or any other events?
Yeah, I think Testflix is very special, obviously, because the idea only came like that. the idea didn't come from me, by the way. The idea came through our core team and city heroes, that uh, Ajay, Josly, Balaji. So they brought this idea that we can do something like this, and then we, from around 2nd September, we wanted discussing that and fine tuning that and so on, and then whatever we all could agree, we thought of doing this event. And obviously we recently did TribalCon, so I didn't want to do another paid event, and we all agreed to that we have to balance it well, that obviously there should be events which, if people cannot afford, even TribalCon for just $1,000 anyway, but if people cannot afford, they should still be able to attend it. So then we thought, okay, let's do, and anyway this is a different format, like we are having atomic talks and all. So we thought of putting some aggressive goal to us, like, okay, 100 talks and then as many countries as we can cover. Then we later on did analysis, and I think we thought 40 would be a great milestone to achieve, like people, speakers from 40 plus countries. We are very happy that we could achieve by the end of, like, we closed the 100 slots. We have speakers from 44 countries now,
Yeah, that's
like all small and big major IT countries. We could touch that, and a lot of them are big names globally and locally, right? Like in their own space, and even globally. They are talking about wonderful topics. I couldn't hear, like I could hear rather very few talks so far. I'm looking forward to do that, but I think people will enjoy. It will be fast paced things, and these are atomic things. So it's not that, okay, let's say you don't belong to a particular topic, so you don't have to wait for 30 or 45 minutes now. 8 minutes and it's over, you are on to next one. And then there are takeaways from each talk, and we are looking at something like, if there are 100 talks, we are looking at 400 plus takeaways. And
yes.
takeaways are like small and big ideas which you can go back and execute, right? Eventually the conference talks or any motivational talk doesn't give you anything. It gives you energy, it gives you ideas. You have to execute that, right? Or it gives you hacks and tips and all. But eventually to matlab, you have to go back to work and execute that. So I think we are here talking about 400 plus takeaways. So I think that's a crazy thing. We are hopeful that whatever work, we are putting a lot of work to do,
Yeah.
but we are hopeful that people will enjoy it a lot. And it's a free event, so people should go to bit.ly/testflix and register there, share it with their friends as well. And rather in companies, because how often that your entire team or your entire company testing group, or even other people interested in testing, can attend a free event which is allowing them to listen to 100 top global speakers from 44 countries, from diverse culture, diverse backgrounds, right? So that's a rare opportunity. I think people should take take benefit of that.
Okay. Okay. Great to know that. I'll put the URL in the description section.
That
And
would be great.
yeah, I think yeah, we are running out of the time. We should wrap up. Before that, I would like to ask last question. So, do you have any advice for the newbie tester, or who wants to join, come into testing field?
Okay, if they have a choice, if they have a choice, they should try to join a product based company.
Okay.
If they have a choice, they should try to join probably a small scale or mid scale company,
Okay.
provided it is not showing them any risk of loss of job. Like the company should look safe, obviously. But I understand how things work. As a fresher, whatever comes our way, we have to accept that, right? Because there are so many people who are graduating and very little jobs. But if they have choice, they can do this. If they don't have, I think the things which we become, I don't know about you, but I become aware of communities and all pretty late. Initial 3-4 years, I didn't know anything. I was just fortunate enough to do a lot of things within company only. So that, I stayed ahead to a satisfactory level. Uh, but I think now that world is so open and we are talking through so many platforms, right? So I think if they become aware about communities and related things very early in their career, they can get to know about the traps, the expectations, the coming trends, what they should be ready about, who can be their mentor, who can guide them well, what they should be staying away from. All these things they can get to know from others through networking communities and all. So they should they should stay in touch with communities as early as possible. That can be any community, but they should be aware of that these mediums exist.
You're right.
And obviously they can join the test drive community if they find it interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should wrap up now.
Yeah, thank you. And I think these were very interesting questions. Like it went till, you know, like from hiring to how you lead, and you know how you handle this the routine situations which we always debate around, you know, the problems arising in the sprint and usual release cycles, and then to the community. So thank you for thinking about those. I really enjoyed answering those. I hope they help other people as well. And yeah, people can always if I couldn't, you know, make full justice with any question due to lack of time or whatever, I'm all open. Like people can always reach out if they feel, you know, I can help further, and I'll be more than happy to connect with them. They should also know about the Tribal Connect which I'm doing. I so far met like 15 to 17 testers at yeah 17 testers till Friday, and that is something which is also open. They can see my LinkedIn, and I'm connecting almost 3 testers per week and knowing their stories, listening to them, and if at all they need any help, and if I think I can help, I'm doing that as well. So I'm loving that. That also gives me joy. So yeah, people can connect me there as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank
So
you.
thanks, Nishant, for wonderful questions. I enjoyed answering this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Mahesh, for your time, and thank you so much, viewers, for your attention. Please join Test Drive community and please subscribe to Test Drive YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.